Joining us right now is the chief strategist at Belpointe Asset Management. David Nelson is here. David, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining
Thanks for having me.
Your thoughts on what has happened to oil and its impact on stocks?
I think we understand today that this is a secular issue. It's not cyclical anymore. You know, in the past, when oil pulled back, we thought the world economy was heading south. But, you know, technology has just simply changed that. And here in the United States, I think oil could possibly fall to the marginal cost. And you have some companies out there that are able to be profitable as low as $30.
Would you invest around this theme?
Well, I am invested around the theme, but I'm not invested in the oil patch. You know, people look at the oil sector and they talk about value. I don't find value in an Exxon at 23 times earnings with falling revenue and earnings. Not my space.
What's the trade then?
Well, everything else is doing well. I think cheap oil is actually a good thing. Technology obviously is a place that you have to be. Financials for me is my biggest overweight. And the reason is not only do you have rising interest rates, but we don't need Congress actually to have financials do well, because a lot of what can happen, rolling back Dodd-Frank, a lot of that is by executive order, and that's already happening.
That's where his success has been, Mitch.
Correct.
The president, the executive orders on rolling back regs.
No question about it. And ultimately the appointments of some of the commissioners that can implement the policies a little bit differently. I want to stick on oil,
Sure.
David, for a second. So let's talk supply and demand for a second. A lot of the rhetoric has been that there's been an abundance of supply, but is it really structural, to your earlier point, that we just have lower demand and that's going to be more permanent?
Well, we're over the tipping point. You know, we are moving towards alternative energy. I think the only difference between the left and the right is the speed that it will happen at and whether or not you're going to subsidize it. I don't think you have to subsidize it. I think let the market forces play out, and alternative energy will be very efficient. The supply is the biggest issue. We are drowning in oil, and OPEC as a cartel-like structure able to dictate supply, that's effectively dead. That doesn't exist anymore. Even the Saudis understand that. They're shaking up the kingdom because they're trying to wean themselves off oil and move into the future.
Yeah, you're right. In terms of the political turmoil in this country, how does that weigh into everything?
It's toxic. Washington is toxic. It plays out on our social media pages, and I think you look at your Facebook page and people are throwing political hand grenades across the aisles, kind of like walking across into your neighbor's yard and shooting your neighbor's dog with a .45. That's the effect that it has, and we lose our friends and neighbors. Last week was a promising point. You know, we had a really tragic event, and for the first time in a long time, I saw both the left and the right kind of come together. And there was a spirit of bipartisanship. I saw Nancy Pelosi and Paul Ryan together. I was encouraged by that, but here we are just a few days later, and that seems to have evaporated.
Yeah, that was then, Caitlin.
Yeah, exactly. How quickly these situations turn. But how focused are you? You said that people are not waiting for Congress to do anything, but when it comes to tax reform, you know, a lot of these lawmakers are saying, look, we need to do something now. What are you looking for? And do you expect that Congress will act on this?
Well, I think they will act on it. Right now, they're focused on the health care package. It's critical that they don't take that to the floor without the votes. They've got to get that through. So if they're going to attack tax reform, you're going to unwind a 77,000-page code. That's going to take years. What I'm looking for is incremental moves. Start off with a corporate tax cut. Focus on repatriation. Repatriation has bipartisan support. I'm excited about that. That helps fund some of the infrastructure that Donald Trump was talking about. And Donald Trump has also talked about public-private partnerships. To me, that's critical. You've got to put some of this in the private sector if you really want it to work. Take the inefficiencies out of government.
What's your bet on markets over the next year? Are they higher from here or lower?
You know, you look at the tape, and generally, you're on TV. You look at the tape. If it's pointing up, you say it's going higher. Right now, a lot of strategists out there are looking for 5% dip in the market by the end of the year. So that's probably wrong. Markets seem pretty resilient. The volatility, I get it, is low. I think we've had a massive correction going on, but it's underneath the surface as everybody scrambles from one sector to the next. So pick your spots and choose them.
And you're buying financials?
Financials, I'm still overweight there. We still have tech. There's still a lot of things we like.
David, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. David Nelson joining us there.